Hi, everybody, and welcome to Title II Tuesday, brought to you by the Center for Inclusive Teaching and Learning here at UWSP. This week, in the continuing story of making your course compliant with Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act, we're bringing you a new episode dealing with PowerPoints. For those of you who use Google Slides, this is the time when not using UWSP-approved technologies is going to catch up with you. We don't provide support for the Google platform or for other presentation software. I've gathered from some quick searches that at this time, Google Slides does not have an accessibility checker, and many of their accessibility tools seem to be more about creating slides using screen readers than reading slides with screen readers. Please take note that if you distribute any digital slide decks, you're responsible for them meeting the same accessibility considerations that apply to PowerPoint slides, but you'll have to figure out how to do that on your own. With that said, let's dig into making our PowerPoints accessible. First, if you use PowerPoint presentations in class but don't distribute them digitally, nobody cares how you make them. Well, you should follow best practice, obviously, not overloading a single slide, using legible, large font, and that sort of thing. But Title II applies only to digital materials that you distribute. If you want to give your students your lecture slides, the most accessible format is the actual PowerPoint file. Yes, you can render your presentations as PDFs or as images, but each of these formats presents greater challenges for accessibility than PowerPoint does. The images are unreadable by screen readers, and you probably can't summarize the text adequately in alt text. And PDFs, let's just say that right now we're waiting for a better tool for making them accessible because what is available currently is cumbersome and produces mixed results. Fortunately, Microsoft has decent checkers that get us closer to compliance in our PowerPoint files. Not surprisingly, when considering how to make PowerPoints accessible, you have to be concerned with the same general issues that we dealt with in Canvas and in Word documents. How can we make our presentations accessible? First, realize that the more you mess around in PowerPoint, adding elements and animations and whatnot, the more likely you are to introduce things that are not accessible. For best results and the least remediation work, we suggest using the templates that are present under the Design tab. These will automatically come with theme colors that are accessible, font sizes that are okay, etc. Next, when adding new slides, use the pre-formatted slide templates in the New Slide drop-down menu. These offer pre-formatted spaces for text, images, tables, and the like, and using them without loads of modification will produce nice, accessible slides. Remember that when reviewing your slides, you have to be compliant with the basics of digital accessibility. Attend to the use of color. Remember that color can't be used as the sole means of conveying information and that it must have adequate contrast with the background to be visible. Links must be rendered as descriptive text with resources that are hyperlinked to that descriptive text. Tables must have header rows and columns as appropriate and should be used for tabular data, not for structure or for organization. Images must be marked as decorative or described in alternative text. If you have complex images, you can put a full description in the notes section of the slide and refer students there in your alt text for the image. Finally, lists must be formatted as lists, not made manually. As with Word documents, there are some considerations that are unique to slides. First, all slides need a title. The built-in accessibility checker will detect slides without titles and give you options, so these are easy to fix. Next, reading order. Making slides can be a process. It isn't uncommon to add elements, then take them away, and separate things so that you can have animated pop-ups and other things that are super interesting to viewers of your lectures. But this process of slide production, at least for me, isn't always linear. This can be a problem. Screen readers will access each element on a slide in the order in which it was added, not the order in which it appears on screen. For your slides to be accessible, you have to be sure that the reading order is the logical order in which you want students to access different slide components. So this is something that you should always check in the reading order pane. Finally, animations and transitions. These are great features when giving a presentation, but they're a challenge for assistive technologies. If you're distributing your lecture slides, the most accessible option is to remove transitions and animations from the version that you provide to students. If you make very complex slides with multiple animated layers, it's better to make copies of that slide than remove the different elements from each copy to produce different sequential slides that don't rely on animation. Do it however you want to in your lectures, but for distribution, let's avoid animations. Let's see what this looks like in PowerPoint. To begin, let's check out some of the slide styles available in the Design tab. There are a lot of choices. If you use one of these, you'll be close to compliant right off the bat. Once you choose a style, you can enter text in the relevant field. You can add additional slides from the pre-formatted versions like this. I'm putting in a section separator, but mainly because I like the color. Then you can choose a normal text slide. Remember, anytime you add additional elements to your slide, it's going to be important for you to double check that reading order. I'm assuming that I'm making a presentation and working the way that I usually do. I'll select a slide, type in the title and some stuff, but I think I want another text box after the title and maybe an image. And a description of the image. Now I've got a demonstration slide for reading order. Remember, the reading order is related to the order in which the elements were added. You can check this by accessing the accessibility checker. There are 3 ways for you to access the accessibility checker. You can use the universal menu on the top of your screen and access tools, or you can access the PowerPoint menu for review and you'll see an icon for the accessibility checker. And finally, you can click on the accessibility status that appears in the bar below your slides. You can review the suggestions or click on the reading order pane to see what order PowerPoint thinks is the right order for your slides. And looking at this, I can tell you it's not. Note that the main text box comes before the text that is next to the title, but I want it the other way around. So I can drag the slides in the reading order pane until they're in the correct order. The accessibility checker will also flag items that present potential reading order issues, but keep in mind that this isn't foolproof. It's best to check the reading order pane for most slides if you've added extra stuff to them. Okay, remember to add alt text to your images. If you're using UWSP branded PowerPoint templates, you'll have to provide alt text for background images. Just a warning. Next, let's think about slide titles. In some cases, especially with images, we don't use a title on a slide. That's okay. The accessibility checker will find any slides without titles and identify them for you. You can fix them directly from the accessibility checker interface. You can make one of the existing page elements into the title, or you can add the title off the slide if you're inclined to do so. Finally, as with Word documents, you should add a title element to your file. As with Word, you can access this under the Universal File menu. On a Mac, properties are listed at the bottom of the drop-down menu. If you're on a Windows machine, then access the File info to find the properties. Full accessibility for PowerPoint slides involves applying the same rules for color, links, tables, heading structure, and images to slides that you've applied to other digital content. In addition, be sure to check for slide titles, reading order, and limit your use of animations. And that's this week's Title II tip, brought to you by the Center for Inclusive Teaching and Learning here at UWSP. Remember, at CITL, we offer support for course design, learning activities, assessment, pedagogy, and accessibility. Visit our website to schedule a consultation today.